parents are beguiling.
Watch out, CC.
And the kids are actually smiling.
Such joie de vivre.
She's the lady in red when everybody else is wearing tan.
Well, for most of us, we can only ever imagine what life must be like for the world's rich and famous. But Philippa Christian doesn't have to imagine it at all. She's seen it firsthand, has been nanny to some of the biggest names in the world. From Melbourne, has worked around the world as a nanny for presidents, Middle Eastern royalty, supermodels, movie stars and multi-billionaires, and has written a book that is causing a lot of interest, Nanny Confidential. Philippa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dennis.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Whereabouts in Victoria are you from?
I'm from Melbourne. I'm from Brighton in Melbourne, so not too far from here, actually.
Excellent. How did you get into this incredible world?
Yeah, a lot of people like to ask this question, and it really was just luck, I think. I started babysitting at a very young age, at the age of 11, and every weekend I would work nonstop. I would take every job that came my way I would take until it got out of hand, and I had to employ friends to sort of help manage this workload. And then Shane Warne, who lives in my suburb, he found out about me, and I started working for him and then became his nanny, and he introduced me to a lot of his friends and I worked for them. And then on weekends I would also work in Crown Towers in the villas where all of these people would fly in, whether it be singers here for concerts or movie stars here to film their movies or to promote their new product lines. And I would be the nanny to look after their children, and sometimes they would fly me back with them to wherever they live, mainly Los Angeles. And I met a lot of nannies over there. The former nanny to Britney Spears, former nanny to Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones.
Hang on, let's go back here a little bit. Britney Spears.
Yeah, so her former nanny is one of my friends, Leah, and we all just ended up sharing work. And being an Australian, I ended up getting a lot of really good jobs because Australian nannies worldwide are known as being very good.
Very good.
It's been reported that there's more Australian nannies in England than there are English nannies.
I'm told, if I can just harp on Britney Spears here for a minute, had some controversial times, but I'm told is very, very shrewd with money. Very, very wealthy.
Yes, I think she would be.
But she's made the most of the opportunities that have come her way. Middle Eastern royalty, movie stars, multi-billionaires, and presidents.
Yes.
Do you get different approaches to your nannying depending on different countries, different cultures?
Oh, definitely. I was working for a family not that long ago in Jakarta, and the family have it so that the nanny cannot discipline the children. So once the children play up, you have to buzz the parents on the intercom and they will come and they will deal with the situation. As the nanny, you can't do anything like that. Whereas most households, they want you to be that firm person who is going to not only love the child and be their friend and play with them, but also put them in line when they need to be put in line.
But it must be, that balance must be very difficult.
It is, but I think it's the successful... it makes a successful relationship. I mean, if you're too friendly with children, they walk all over you. Whereas if you're too dominant and too strict with them, they don't tell you the truth. They don't talk to you. They don't open up to you as easily. So to have a successful relationship with a child, whether it be as a nanny or as a parent, you really need that balance.
Do you believe this was your calling? Because you were doing it at 11 and you were subcontracting out when you're in your teens. That's not bad.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I love children, and every time I see one, whether it's, in the supermarket and I see a child in a pusher, I can't help but, make them laugh or say hello or, do some little funny face to them. I love children. I love babies. I love families and helping families. And it's definitely my passion. So I'd love to think it is my calling for sure.
Tell me about the lifestyles that you're suddenly flung into if you're travelling around with a Britney Spears or a Shane Warne. I mean, how what's the word? How over the top is it?
Oh, I mean, it just really depends on the family and the type of celebrity. I mean, sportsmen are different to movie stars, which are different to royalty and presidents. The security levels change. The daily sort of things. It just really depends on the family. I mean, one week you could be living in a palace in India, and the next week you might be living in a gated community in the Bahamas somewhere. It really depends on the family, but all are so different, and that's what I've loved about my job as well, the variety of different people that I have been able to work for. If
you've got this reputation, I imagine you'd be very much in demand. Do people try and get you to be there for them and for their kids for periods of years?
Yeah, yes. I mean, every contract varies. So sometimes, you'll work for people if they're flying into Australia and they want an Australian nanny. whether it's a holiday that they want you to go on, whether it's at the end of the year when certain nannies in certain families, they'll go home at that time of year, and so they'll need a nanny to replace them during those times. Every contract is completely different, so it's just depends on which ones you choose to do, and yeah, really.
Private jets?
Yeah, private jets, they're always good.
How did you feel the first time you were on a private jet?
Oh, well, I mean, even the first time flying business class for me was a surprise. The kids were just sort of opening the pillows out of the plastic and using the hot towels to wipe their face. I had no idea what to do with any of these things the first time because I was quite young, really, when I did start doing these things. So I've learned. I think because I've sort of grown up doing it. I don't get starstruck anymore. I don't feel those kinds of things because I've really been doing it from such a young age.
Is there is there a budget for you to dress in a particular level for some of these people?
Well, I don't. It's not like I get the money and say, go and buy what you want. They tell you what they want you to buy and what they want you to look like. A lot of the time, some parents will want you to sort of fit into the picture so that it looks like they don't have a nanny. Other times, they know what the media are like. They will contact you for photos of these people with no makeup on or all kinds of information. And so
you've had those calls?
Yes, definitely. That's something that all of my nanny friends can say that we've all, we all get contacted for those kinds of things. So they don't like you to stand out as a nanny during those contracts.
Have you heard of nannies actually giving over information they shouldn't?
Yes, definitely.
They'd be unemployed nannies these days.
They are unemployed nannies, that's for sure. You don't last long. And I think that, the biggest part of the job really is being able to button your lip and to be a trustworthy person. It's such a crucial part of the job, really.
That's that aspect of it. Given today's environment with Twitter and everyone's a photographer, everyone's breaking news stories via their mobile phones, or the potentially to do that. That must be very difficult.
It is. I mean, look, I'm sure the media can look back onto photos with my former employers and see me in the background, or flick through magazines from a few years ago and work out exactly everyone who I've worked for.
You've done some photo bombing, have you?
Not
deliberately.
But it's true. It is hard to hide a lot of things like that, but. It is what it is. You can't really do much about it sometimes.
I was just thinking about the balance, too, of moving between cultures and different levels of, say, discipline or how discipline's approached. Have you found yourself in uncomfortable situations in regard to that?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I have seen some... It's funny because some people want more than one nanny at once. They like to have different language speaking nannies. So, one of us will speak English, one of us will speak Spanish. And a lot of these nannies, when you do seem to travel overseas, are employed from villages. Sometimes they don't pay them a lot of money. And I have seen some nannies being slapped before. One in particular this incident was because she didn't pack the child's flavoured toothpaste on a trip. So the mother was very upset with that. And when I saw that, I thought, oh gosh, it's probably time I get out of here. It's probably not
a slightly indulged child. Didn't pack the correct flavoured toothpaste. Boy, oh boy. Look, it's fantastic to have you here. Now, the good news for this is, I heard you talking outside with our movie expert, Jim Shembry. Nanny Confidential is becoming a movie or could become a movie?
It's currently in talks with a major production company in America to be turned into a movie. So at the moment, that's all being spoken about. But I think after January and February, we'll have more of an idea of getting signed on.
Can you risk your future by becoming a movie? Because they might move the story a little bit for the sake of artistic outcomes.
Well, hopefully there'll be a Nanny Confidential 2 and a Nanny Confidential 3 book. That's what we're really hoping for. It depends on the sales, I guess. But I definitely think the movie would be altered and probably would have parts of what book 2 and book 3 would have in them. They know it sells more than what I would. So I think that it would be very similar to the Nanny Diaries, just with that celebrity angle in it.
Who is, over your time, you can choose not to answer this if you want, but who would be your favourite?
My favourite person who I've worked for?
Or maybe a few who might stand out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do choose. I really can't. I can't name people. These contracts, a lot of people don't understand this as well. These contracts are so detailed. They even go on to the extent that once I've passed away, if my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren go on to say something I've told them, their whole estates can be sued by my former employer who thinks I've breached my contract. So it's not just lifelong, these contracts. They do go forever, really. And this is why I just need to be so careful.
How difficult is it if the adults in these working relationships are confiding in you or seeking your guidance?
Well,
if they might be going through a bad patch, or the husband's nicked off playing with someone else, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, look, that's very common, and part of this job is that you know more information than Perez Hilton can get his hands on, or any of the gossip magazines. You know a lot more, and you know it in the detail, in the correct detail that it's in. But you do become part of these people's families. You live in their homes, and they trust you. And I think that that's something that I will always take with me. I will never break that trust. And all of my employers know about this book. They've all been extremely supportive, and I've been very blessed to have only worked for lovely people. I haven't really had a bad run like a few other nannies have. So I don't plan on doing anything like that. And if there are stories, they're all disguised. No one can be recognised. And it's quite all right.
Can I do one final question? And thank you for giving us all this time today. Have you been shopping in a closed shop where it's just open for the celebrity?
I have.
How good is that?
It's fantastic.
Philippa Christian, thank you. Congratulations. Nanny Confidential. And we will wait for the movie as well, and we'll wait for 2 and 3.
Thank you, Denis.
This is your first ever radio interview. You handle yourself perfectly.
Thank you.
As you certainly have in your career. 969000 693. Here's a question. We found out that someone in this building borrowed a book 11 years ago and only returned it after meeting the person she borrowed it from daughter. 969000 693 is someone borrowed something from you and never returned it. 969000